Thanks, CMG, and to Amanda and Susie and all of the EatDenver team. It's an awesome opportunity to be here. I'm used to being in a room of wine people, so I'm feeling a little bit of the outlier, but a special thanks to the team at Mercantile last night who gave us such an awesome welcome to Denver and reminded me why I love this business so much. And to Patrick Houghton, who introduced me to my very first Colorado Chenin Blanc, which is on their list by the glass. He blinded me on it. I completely failed. And it was a great reminder why, really, you never realize how little you know. No one thinks that working in wine can be that tough of a career. If bartenders and spirits professionals are the tough outlaws, and beer professionals are the baseball dugout dwellers, wine people are kind of the geeky kids in the science class. With all of our pins and our books and our deductive ways of thinking, we're not exactly the naughtiest kids in the neighborhood. But at every moment in our daily lives, wine is always within reach. Sure, we talk about terroir and vintage and indigenous yeast and growers and family-owned, but every day we earn a living working with and around alcohol, which in its essence is a neurotoxin. And what I've learned over 27 years in the business is no one talks about alcohol's impact on our minds or on our bodies. And not many of us have the access that we need or the information to really work with booze in a healthy way. In fact, very few of us have the education or the training, and we don't even know what our employers expect of us to be successful in our industry for the long term. And I think that's bullshit. Because I think that every professional who works with and around alcohol deserves to have the knowledge, the tools, the resources, and how to manage their own personal health for the long term. My early years in the wine business, as you can hear, they're in the drinking culture of Australia. And I love what we were talking about with both Craveology and the Yelp review concept of authenticity. If I have one more person tell me Australia's about shrimps on barbies, I'm going to punch them in the face. Because we're a country of migrants and we all have different experiences. But that is what we are culturally appropriated to, as we are, a culture of pretty heavy drinkers. So in our industry as a professional, the concept of moderation or abstinence, it's never even considered. And moving to San Francisco in 2007, I experienced very firsthand the pressures of working in corporate wine culture in America. Relentless hours of work, but plus there was wining and dining and hours, and it took its toll on my mental health, on my physical health, and all the people around me. Work hard, play hard, and work even harder. I had to figure it out and hold it all together while I was working in this thing called a glamorous wine life. But the concept of moderation, or as we like to call it today, sober curious, right? It's got this new cool term. But as a professional in alcohol, it's actually not that easy to talk about. Why? Because moderation, choosing to drink a little less, doesn't exactly scream overachiever when your job every day is to get up, grow, produce, sell, promote, and pour wine. It's the one drug in society we're always asked why we're not taking. What, are you sick? Are you pregnant? It's your job to drink. Isn't this what you signed up for? I attended a wine business conference in 2017 of 700 predominantly female wine professionals. And during that, we talked about gender equality, inclusion, diversity, career development, and not one person talked about alcohol and how we can work with it responsibly and how we can find disciplines to have really good boundaries. So I did what I think a lot of good people do. I got really pissed off and I wrote an article that got picked up in an international magazine. And I really wanted to question why the hell we don't talk about something that is so intrinsic to what we make and sell every day. And the response from around the world was overwhelming. But between the emails and the texts and the thank yous and the supports came these really heartfelt notes of despair, of shame, and of a community in crisis. And much like Kat Kinsman's realization with Chefs with Issues, I realized we had people in our community that were in crisis. struggling silently and really not knowing where to go, who to talk to. And while there were some great resources for hospitality and for restaurants, and I totally applaud the work of groups like Ben's Friends, Club Soda, even the Benevolent in the UK, Wine in Moderation in Europe, Good Morning Sunday Morning in Australia, we had nothing for wine. So in early 2018, I started a website called A Balanced Glass. It wasn't because I had a bunch of spare time, but I figured that if I was looking for ways to keep myself together, then I kind of had a thought someone else might be too. So A Balanced Glass was born as a way to give professionals in wine a place that we could have conversations we couldn't have with any other people. Because you don't see many mini violins playing for your 10th restaurant meal in a week, or the 35 wines you've tasted before 11 a.m., or the 10th flight you've taken in 12 days. Because that's the reality for a lot of people who work in the wine business. A Balanced Glass was born as an online platform to give wine professionals a place to share and to talk and to really get together. And so with my friend, a wine journalist, a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher, Kathy Hoyha, we just started to talk about it. And we talked about the ways we could find mindfulness in our daily lives, but with practical resources that we could actually do something with as wine and alcohol professionals. We were brought together by a mutual interest in mindfulness and meditation and yoga and all the nice things we like to talk about today. But it was really to push the industry to evolve into the modern time and to wake up and to listen to us. The space was intentionally created to be honest, to be open, and to be as confidential as people needed it to be. Some people wanted to shout from the rooftops and tell us their life story. Other people really needed to sit down and have a quiet one-on-one in a space where they knew that their integrity and their name would be protected. So it started as an email to a small group of wine friends, and every week we'd write something. I'd write about breathing apps to make you more calm in your workplace. How you can mindfully drink when you live on your own. Or how to navigate jet lag when you've just landed in a country and you got to be on. Or what's that exhaustion from harvest when you've been picking for 16 hours and your body is physically just tired. The community pushed us for pithier content, for more and more stories, and to reveal more of their own struggles. They asked us to go after deeper subjects. They asked us to go after a lot of big elephants in the room. And so we went there, and we go there, and we go there more and more every day as the community grows with us. And each day a new fibre of connection is made, and each day new voices join the community. Naysayers and critics would tell me it was a waste of time. But they would also pull me aside to be like, hey, I read your story on that digestion hacks and it actually works. It's really interesting what people do behind closed doors. But the real champion of A Balanced Glass is the community. And each week in Meet the Community, we profile someone who's doing something for their physical and mental health and working in a way that they can push themselves forward to be there for themselves, for their families, for the community and the industry at large. It's the most popular part of the site, and it should be. And we're really proud of every single person we put up there because everyone's doing something that they can within their ability. Why is it popular? Because people want to know they're not alone. We all know this. It's why you're all here. It's why this community is so incredibly tight and focused and respectful, and you're doing it. And that's what we're trying to create in wine. So people have always said, how do you think this is going to grow? It's never going to get much of a following. Well, we've got 600 subscribers. We've got just over 900 people on the Facebook group, all industry. Everyone in the industry is welcome to be part of that. And the website's getting about 1,200 hits a month. It's small, but it's growing. And that's the important part. People want to connect offline. So last year, I hosted a yoga practice for anyone working at the Aspen Food and Wine Classic. So for those of us who are going to be lugging boxes, loading spittoons, clearing, emptying, pouring, standing, running, it was just something for the community. And in December last year, I taught a meditation section at an Italian wine conference in Verona. If you ever want to see something really interesting, try getting 50 Italians in a room to meditate. Or shut up. Most recently, I designed this little guy. It's a lapel pin. It's a visible means for people to signal their commitment to working to make their health a priority. And maybe it's making time for exercise, maybe it's putting down that second glass you really don't need. It doesn't really matter what it is, it's something. And since August, more than 500 wine professionals have been pinned. We didn't have to take a test, we didn't have to do a blind tasting, all we got to do is show up. This is completely voluntary. And it's a small and mighty message that we're sending to the industry, that there are hundreds of people that want to be well, and we want to find each other, and we want to support each other, because we all want to be here for a really long time, because it's an extraordinary industry that we all get to be part of. You know, I count myself lucky in my full-time job. I work for Folio Fine Wine Partners. Has anyone heard of Folio? Yeah? Awesome, Chad's doing his job. So we're a national importer, we're based out of Napa, and the owner and founder of our company is one of the greatest advocates for health, which is Michael Mondavi. This is Michael's work. All employees at Folio in a role that involves alcohol, tasting, pouring, are given a breathalyzer, a personal breathalyzer, on the first day you join. And his rules are really simple. If you are consuming wine and you are with a motor vehicle, it is expected that you use this before you get behind the wheel of a car. If you blow 0.04, you take a taxi, 0.04 or above. So legal limit's 0.08, right? So 0.04, you have to take a taxi or dial a driver, or if you're somewhere remote, get a hotel room. To and from. You submit that expense to the company, that expense is paid. No questions asked, no questioning what you were doing, it doesn't matter. What matters is employee safety and the fact that you are being responsible to yourself, but to the people around you. I've never heard of another company doing this, by the way. It may be around, and if it is, please tell me, because I'm trying to look for great examples of people doing great work. You know, we're led by a man in his mid-70s who still holds himself to 8 ounces of wine a day. He exercises religiously. We compare yoga mat thicknesses. And he leads by example for responsible behaviour. You know, it's good for employee safety, and yeah, it's great for business, but he's doing what he says he's going to do. So in other areas, companies, they're also stepping up. Michael Wang-Bickler is the president of Balzac Communications in Napa, and he's very open about his struggles with mental health, depression, and he actually openly talks about it in the company, and he makes it part of his weekly meetings with his staff. You know, Harvard Business Review just came out with some research that 60% of employees do not talk about mental health at work. They sure as hell talk about it at Balzac. And at Wenty and Livermore, President Amy Hoops created a program called Make Time, which is all about giving employees an opportunity to make time away from wine. Whether you're in production, grape growing, sales, marketing, finance, it doesn't matter. To make time with your family and get back to what's important, paid on company time. So of course there's lots of other wineries, suppliers, distributors, you know, you have vendors, all of us are doing our own little piece. There's yoga gatherings, there's ride to works, bike to works. You probably all biked here today because you're healthy. It's awesome. You can come to San Francisco and ride our hills whenever you like. But you know, in an absence of leaders, it's the community who's really doing this. And at the end of the day, health and wellness shouldn't be a trend. It should be our culture. And it should be a culture that supports the long-term health of our industry. Our leadership has to make change to be more proactive, to be more inclusive, to listen to our voices, and to provide basic information and resources and help when we need it, to make better decisions for ourselves. Because if things don't change, we run the risk of losing a heck of a lot of bright talent. And we're already seeing the change that's happening in the demographic of the workforce right across America. And it's also happening around the world. So we've got to get on this. So how do you change industry through community? Number one, find a way to connect. Again, I'm standing here looking at all of you. It's exactly what we're doing. Create trusted environments without judgment. Your experience does not necessarily mean it's the truth for someone else. Hold each other and be held accountable. Share what you know and what you've learned. That little hack you might have gotten yourself can absolutely help somebody else. And respond to what the community needs and pivot. A balanced glass is not looking like it did a week ago, a year ago, and it won't look like this in 6 months' time. And take it to your workplace and command the leadership and the attention. Get them in the room and start talking about this stuff. And you can start right here. Take stock of where you are. What is your role in your relationship with alcohol, with wine, with beer, with spirits, whatever it is for you? What is that? Ask someone else how they are, and really ask them. Share this information with someone you care about. And then do one thing right now. You know, as the Dalai Lama said, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping in the room with a mosquito. Thank you.